Hello everyone, welcome to an exciting episode of Tribune's podcast In Conversation. I am Fatma Zaidi, your host and a journalist who, like many others, is interested in international relations, global affairs, and in finding out about stories that connect our world. In today's podcast, we have the distinct privilege of hosting a very distinguished guest, His Excellency French Ambassador to Pakistan, Mr. Nicolas Galey, who is a career diplomat and has a wealth of experience in fostering Franco-Pakistani relations. Our aim in today's podcast is going to be to delve into the intricacies of diplomacy, explore the political, economic, and cultural ties that bind our nations. In today's conversation, we are going to explore the unique Franco-Pakistani relationship, discuss shared challenges, as well as explore opportunities of collaboration between our two very diverse yet interconnected nations. First of all, I'd like to welcome Mr. Nicolas. Thank you so much for sparing the time for this interview. Before we delve into more substantive questions, I think what we'd like to know is how has your journey in Pakistan so far been?
Well, thank you for having me, and I think the first question itself is already very substantive. Because discovering a country, be it Pakistan or any other one, is a privilege that we have as diplomats. And I have been posted in many parts of the world, but I never had the chance to be in Pakistan or even in that region. And this journey, which started nearly 2 years ago, is a really fascinating one. Discovering a country, discovering the people, discovering the culture, the extremely rich culture, or I would say cultures of Pakistan, is something that really is fascinating for, I think, all diplomats here, and certainly for me. It's now my fourth visit to Karachi. I already went 3 times to Lahore, and definitely, although it may be very pleasant to live in the diplomatic enclave in Islamabad, we know that this is not Pakistan, and we really have to go much further. I also had the chance to spend some time in the beautiful mountains of Natia, and my my objective now is to discover also the fantastic north of the country with the Himalayan mountains. So that's, the geographical and cultural discovery of a country, but the job of a diplomat is not to be a tourist, although traveling is important, again, to discover a country. And I'm sure that your upcoming questions will deal with the other parts of the job.
Indeed, that's what they're going to deal with. And in that vein, we'd like to know if there's any insights that you can share from the diplomatic relationship between Pakistan and France.
Well, basically, ever since Pakistan was created, and France was one of the first countries to recognize Pakistan and to establish an embassy, which at the time was here in Karachi. At the moment of independence, the nature of Franco-Pakistani relations is to be good, and relations are good, they are friendly, they are very productive, and my job as ambassador now, as my predecessors and successors, is to continue on this path and to continue these good relations, to develop them, to adjust them to the new world, new technologies, new challenges. One obviously is climate change, which is a challenge for the whole world, and on which, as you know, France is very much engaged. So that's certainly one of the main subjects I'm working with our Pakistani friends, and that has given the opportunity to French President Macron and then Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif to meet several times, especially on this question of climate change and climate resilience, in particular after the tragic floods that you had the summer 2022. So I'm working very much on this and other aspects of the bilateral relationship. But again, there was at some point some bilateral difficulties which have been overcome very quickly, because I repeated, the nature of our relations is that we have good and friendly and very active bilateral relations.
Like you said, the job of a diplomat is not about being a tourist. And as you also said in your answer to the other question, that there's been challenges. What kind of challenges have you come across during your time as a diplomat in Pakistan?
Well, challenges may mean many things. If it means difficulties, there was no difficulty. As I said before, there was a period of some problems between France and Pakistan which were overcome, and with the very clear desire from both governments to overcome these difficulties and to move forward. And that's obviously what my mission is about, and also my counterpart, your ambassador in Paris. We are developing very good cooperation together. And there was no challenges in the sense of difficulty. There are challenges in the sense that every day brings a new subject to discuss, new problems to solve, but this is a part of life, a normal life, and we're dealing with this very well and in very friendly spirit with our Pakistani counterparts.
We're glad to know. Besides, diplomacy is not just about political relations or economic ties. It also heavily relies on culture. So what has your experience been of fostering cultural understanding between Pakistan and France?
Yeah, well, cultural diplomacy has been very traditionally part of our foreign policy. It's the case, of course, in Pakistan. We have here in Karachi one Alliance Française, who is teaching French language and having cultural activities for the general public. There is another one in Lahore, another one in Islamabad, which, of course, the French embassy is supporting very much. Teaching and expanding French language in the world is certainly a constant part of our cultural foreign policy. It's also to develop the number of students who study in France, and I'm very happy, and that's one of the reasons why I'm in Karachi today, that there is a new impetus in the movement of Pakistani students going to France. There were not enough of them in the past, and we are really catching up very quickly. And today we have here in Karachi an event called Choose France, through which about 6-7 French universities are coming here to Karachi. So they are coming from France especially to meet Pakistani universities and students, and to expose all the very broad offer of studies in France, either in French or in English, because there are many disciplines that are taught in English, so that the language should not be a problem. And I'm very happy that in the last 2 years, the number of students, first of all, trying to get information on studies in France, and those who have actually decided to study in France has considerably increased. And I'm sure that after this event today in Karachi, and there is the same one in Lahore, it will continue that way.
When we talk about students, it's like a massive number of Pakistani students who seek to pursue higher education abroad. When we talk about France, what subjects or fields would you advise to Pakistani students that they best pursue in France? And while you're answering that, we would also want to know what initiatives has the local embassy taken for prospective Pakistani students or facilitating them?
Well, in terms of disciplines, all disciplines are taught in French universities, be it in scientific or humanities or technology. So it's really up to the students to make their own decision. Certainly there are fields of excellence in which France is well known, especially in the scientific field. But also if you want to study history or archaeology, where you have a lot to work on here in Pakistan because of the very rich past you have and so many sites to develop, we have a very good offer in this regard also. We offer scholarships, so that's also an area where Pakistani students can try with the French Embassy Cultural Service to register and to present their applications. And some of these studies are also run in cooperation with the Pakistani authorities, with the Commission on Higher Education, which means that the choice of students and disciplines is made jointly. And so the students will spend, that's at the level of PhD, the end of the studies in France at a very high level.
Right. And what facilities would you say the local embassy has taken, especially in terms of visa processing, because that's a complaint that Pakistani students have a lot?
Yeah, well, there is a specific visa process for students. We're trying, of course, to accommodate as much as we can, especially in terms of time frame, because sometimes it takes time to get appointments. But the students who have been accepted have a kind of a fast-track process. Those who have scholarships, obviously, also. So we know that sometimes there are problems. When those problems are mentioned to us, we try, and I think we succeed in solving them very quickly. So visa, we know the question of visa in general. But for students, I think we're doing as well as we can. And again, if we make, it happens to everyone, some mistakes, we try to solve them. And we managed to do that.
Mr. Galey, surviving diplomatic challenges aside, how has surviving desi food been, considering how starkly different the French palate is?
Well, that's the miracle of good cuisine. You have a good cuisine all over the world. And one of the discoveries, to respond to your first question of my journey in Pakistan, was certainly to discover the various cuisine and food you have in Pakistan. And they're very different from the north or Punjab or Sindh. And that's also, as you mentioned, the French are very interested in cuisine. So it was part of my discovery of this country. Well, I was about to say that it's a bit of a spicy question, because it's sometimes difficult to convince when we are trying for the first time a Pakistani dish, to convince the waiter that we don't want it too spicy, because the question usually is not do you want it spicy or not spicy, but the question is do you want it spicy or very spicy?
Very spicy.
And there is no choice under spicy. But generally speaking, it's a great experience, and I love the food here.
I've just generally been curious, do ambassadors have a secret chef in their embassies? Do they have that?
Well, yeah, but there's nothing secret. There is a French chef at the French residence, because obviously when our guests come to respond to an invitation from a French ambassador, they expect to eat French food.
French food, yeah.
And I have the great privilege of having a very good chef at the French residence in Islamabad.
Okay.
So I can, have both local Pakistani food outside and French food at home.
Ambassador, some of the best and maybe even worst memories that you've made in Pakistan so far?
The simple answer is that the best memory is arriving here, and the worst one will be to leave.
Oh, that's sweet. That is sweet. So, Mr. Galey, looking ahead, what are the prospects for furthering political ties and collaboration between France and Pakistan, and what role can diplomacy play in strengthening these ties?
Well, there are, of course, a lot of projects that we have together. I mentioned before, but this is, of course, a long-term effort, increasing the number of students from Pakistan coming to France. But we didn't talk very much about the economy until now, and it's an opportunity to do it, especially here in Karachi. And one of the reasons I came here is also the important role of Karachi in the Pakistani economy. We want to develop the number of French companies working in Pakistan, or the number of French companies trading with Pakistan. As you may know, there is a very important EU scheme called GSP Plus that favors considerably Pakistani export in certain fields, particularly the fundamental industry for Pakistan textile. And this has developed Pakistani exports to France in very, very big proportions. And many of the famous French clothes brands are using Pakistani textile, and we're very happy with this. There are also here already in Pakistan, and in particular in Karachi, some major French brands I had the pleasure to visit this time or in previous times, like L'Oreal for cosmetics, like Schneider for electricity, like Peugeot car maker, who is the only European car maker to have cars assembled in the Lucky Motors factory. So there is also already very numerous and valuable assets, but that certainly has to be developed. I'm focusing very much on the agriculture sector. You have a big population, 250 million, 300 million, 30, 40 years. You have a very rich land, and this land can certainly be exploited better and more. And France is an important agricultural country, and we have a very strong agri-food industry. I'm very much interested in the dairy sector, since Pakistan is, I think, the fifth biggest producer of milk in the world. And we have some experience in France about what to do with milk, not only milk, but a lot of other products. So that certainly a sector where I really wish that our economic relations develop. Political side, we have a lot of cooperation in the multilateral fields, I mean in international organizations, certainly on the climate change issues, which, as I mentioned before, is a priority for the planet in general, and certainly for a country like Pakistan, which is unfortunately very exposed to the effects of climate change, and we saw it during the floods last year. Fighting against climate change is also helping countries to adjust in terms of housing, in terms of climate change resilience, habitat, and we have a lot of things to do together with Pakistan. It's also about financing the climate change in countries that need to do what is called adaptation, and this is why President Macron made an important summit in June in France about how to finance adaptation, and Prime Minister Sharif was participating in that meeting. So as you can see, there is a lot in our plates, I would say, on both sides, and very much determined to continue working together on these different subjects, and certainly many other ones.
Thank you. And there you have it, viewers. The fascinating conversation with His Excellency, the French Ambassador, comes to a close. We hope you enjoyed this enlightening exploration of the Franco-Pakistani relationship. Before we bid adieu, we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Galey for sharing your insights and experiences with us today. It's been an incredible opportunity to gain a deeper understanding of the Franco-Pakistani relationship. As we wrap up this episode, we'd like to remind you that diplomacy knows no boundaries, and conversations like these play a vital role in fostering understanding and cooperation between two countries. Until next time, this is your host Fatma Zaidi signing off. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Shukriya.